I'm Amy Cherry. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow ya. A scare at Advent Health Palm Coast left the hospital on lockdown for a time.
The Flagler County Sheriff's Office located fugitive Kelsey Anderson and took him into custody for an active arrest warrant for written threats to kill. Anderson is being booked into the Sheriff Perry Hall inmate detention facility and held without bond pending first appearance by a judge. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call at 12:15 in the afternoon from Advent Health Palm Coast after an employee of the hospital received a Facebook message from a domestic partner threatening to shoot her and shoot up the hospital. The hospital was placed on lockdown while deputies sought the male who wrote the threat. The investigation revealed the man that sent the message was 36-year-old Kelsey Anderson. There's no indication that he was ever at the hospital, although he indicated he was there waiting to kill her. Anderson has a prior arrest history in Flagler County for various grand theft, burglary, and dealing in stolen property charges. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Rich Carroll. This portion of Flagler's Morning News brought to you by the Daytona Beach International Airport, Delta Airlines nonstop to Atlanta, and now nonstop service to New York City via American Airlines.
One person is dead and another seriously hurt after a shooting at a Palm Coast gas station. Police were called to the Circle K across from the Flagler County Library early Saturday morning. There they say 26-year-old Dion O'Neill of Palm Coast was shot and killed while he sat in a car. A second man who was in the car with O'Neill was wounded as well and hasn't been identified. Sheriff Rick Staley says they're searching for a single shooter who they say fled the scene on foot. They're asking anyone who saw something to say something.
We are asking all residents, anyone with any information, to call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-277-TIPS with any information they may have. You could be eligible for reward up to $5,000. You may also send an email to tips, T-I-P-S, @flaglersheriff.com.
Staley adds he doesn't believe this was a random act of violence. Police say shell casings found at the scene show an assault rifle was used in the murder. The fatal shooting marks the third murder in Flagler County this year. A former circuit judge is benched for 3 months. With more, here's Tony Magoo.
The Florida Supreme Court suspended former circuit judge Scott DuPont, who presided over cases in Flagler and Putnam counties until he was booted from the bench last year. Some of the same violations that got DuPont removed as a judge in June of 2018 also got him a 91-day suspension on his license to practice law, according to the order from the Florida Supreme Court. DuPont entered a conditional guilty plea to violating Florida bar rules, leading to his suspension. DuPont knowingly made scandalous and inaccurate claims about his opponent, Malcolm Anthony, and Anthony's family. He did this even after being cautioned by 2 judges not to do so. During a televised candidate forum, DuPont said things about his opponent's driving record that weren't true. Afterward, DuPont did nothing to see if he had misspoken. The Judicial Qualifications Commission, in its review of DuPont when he was a judge, found that he showed a reckless disregard for the truth. For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Tony Magoo.
A longtime Palm Coast official resigns. John Arking reports.
When Matt Morton was appointed last April to be the city's new manager, beating out several finalists, including Deputy City Manager Beau Falgout, it seemed a foregone conclusion that Falgout was not going to remain on for very long. So, when Falgout tendered his resignation Friday, the only surprise may have been that he waited this long to move on. But after losing out to Morton for the top spot, Falgout had pledged to remain on and ensure a smooth transition. Because he made his resignation effective immediately, Friday was his last day with the city, where he's worked since 2007. In his letter, Falgout said he was grateful to Morton for his professionalism and the trust placed in him, and was not leaving Palm Coast with any regrets or hard feelings. In his time with the city, Falgout rose from a planner to senior planner, and then later becoming the senior economic development planner. He was also the administration coordinator at one point, and the economic development director, a title he retained until his resignation. In the meantime, Morton says he plans to talk with staff and council members before deciding how to fill the position. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm John Arkin.
October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
But why have a month to be aware of domestic violence when Trish Giacconi, the director of Flagler's Family Life Center, says domestic violence happens all year?
Really, this month is to highlight how each of us can participate in supporting survivors and holding perpetrators accountable.
Giacconi says that victims of domestic violence need our help throughout the year, but pushing it to the forefront in October may make more people aware of domestic violence. To listen to the entire interview, download the Flagler Radio app and go to the Free for All Friday podcast. Tomorrow, what is the Family Life Center? From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Amy Cherry.